Have you ever tried to walk in the dark without a flashlight? Did you stumble? Did you hesitate? And sometimes, we hurt ourselves, right? You ever hit your toe on the bed or on the couch, right? Walking in the dark. All of that happened because we couldn't see the path clearly. That's exactly what it feels like when we don't walk by faith. Not walking by faith, it doesn't just slow us down. It also causes us pain, and it keeps us from growing personally and spiritually. In this video, I want to look at 4 ways this happens and how we can change this direction in our life. The first point I want to look at is that fear replaces faith. When we don't walk by faith, fear just takes over, okay? Fear comes in and it paralyzes us, and it makes us start to doubt God's promises in our lives. When you look in Matthew at Peter when he walked on the water towards Jesus, think about it. When he was focusing on Jesus, he was able to walk across that water with ease. But when he started focusing on the storm, he began to sink, okay? See, fear thrives when faith is absent. It causes us to doubt just like Peter did. It keeps us from stepping into new opportunities and trusting God's plan, right? It keeps us from just walking by faith. Without faith, we let worry and anxiety dictate our actions, and it leads us into stagnation, right? Fear delayed me from creating this YouTube channel, okay? The enemy used fear and the what if this and the what if that to cripple me for about 2 years, okay? And there's going to be some areas in your life where fear has replaced faith, okay? We want to make sure that we're choosing faith over fear. The next point I want to talk about, point number 2, is going to be disobedience and how it leads to pain. Look, when we are not walking by faith, it often results in us being disobedient to what God is calling us to do, and it causes unnecessary pain. Think about the children of Israel. When you go read the story of the children of Israel, God promised them the land of Canaan, right? But their lack of faith, it led them to disobey his directions. And so instead of them entering into the promised land, they wandered in the desert for over 40 years. When we don't trust God, we often start to take matters into our own hands. When we look into the book of Proverbs, it says that there is a path before each person that seems right. That's the key word, seems right. But it ends in death. So choosing our own way instead of God's can lead to broken relationships. It leads to missed blessings and just spiritual stagnation, okay? Think about it. Is there an area in your life where you're resisting God's instructions? Is there some areas in your life where fear has replaced faith? Keep in mind that obedience fueled by faith, it protects us from unnecessary heartaches. Okay, so I had to get to a point where I had to encourage myself. I had to step out on faith. And as you see, I'm here right now. The next point I want to talk about is missed opportunities, okay, for God's glory. When we don't walk by faith, we miss out on opportunities for God to work through us. When we go and look at the book of John, the story of Lazarus, when Jesus delayed going to see Nazareth, Mary and Martha, they were disappointed. They couldn't understand what was going on. But later on, Jesus told them, didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you just believe? When they did believe, their faith opened the door for a miraculous resurrection, right? For a miraculous miracle by God. You see, when we lack faith, we miss God's miracles in our lives. When we look in Ephesians, it says, now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we could ever ask or think, right? But don't forget the end of the scripture, because it says, according to the power that works in us. We need to activate that power. Faith activates God's power, and it lets him do extraordinary things through extraordinary people like you and I. What opportunities are you missing because you're not trusting God fully? Okay. Faith allows us to step into the bigger plan that God has for us, which is always better than the plan that we have for ourselves. The fourth thing I want to talk about is going to be the lack of faith. How the lack of faith, it blocks our growth, okay? Not walking by faith, it stunts us spiritually and personally, okay? Hebrews says it's impossible. It is impossible to please God without faith. And that scripture also goes on to say that anyone who wants to come to him, we must believe. We must believe that God rewards those who sincerely seek him. Faith is going to be the foundation, okay? It's going to be how we trust God to mold and shape us and mature us into the men and women that we were called to be. Think of it like this. Think of a seed that refuses to be planted. Why? Because it's afraid of the darkness. It's afraid to go into the ground and experience the darkness. Yeah. Without faith, we resist those uncomfortable seasons, just like that seed. Okay? Those uncomfortable seasons that God uses to grow us, to mature us. Okay? When you look in James, it says, when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. Okay? Because when our endurance is fully developed, we will be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Okay? Are you like me? Are you avoiding growth because you're afraid of what faith is going to require of you? Are you worried about what you might have to give up or walk alone, or what it would look like from the outside? Right? Trusting God to use every step to refine us is what we need to do. We need to trust that he has our best interests at heart. We need to trust that if God doesn't open a door, it's because he has something better. He has something different. And that whatever it was that you were thinking was best just doesn't align with the plan and the purpose that God has for your life. So I don't know if who I'm speaking to, but if you're upset, disappointed, or maybe bitter, bitterness has seeped in because you didn't get something that you thought was best for you, that you thought would be life-changing, right? Just keep in mind that for those of us that belong to God, that if God doesn't allow something, it's because he has better. It's because he knows that doesn't align with the purpose he has for us, with the true desire that we have, okay, that we're seeking him for in prayer. He knows that's not going to work out for us, right? He knows more than what we know. He goes ahead of us. So we have to trust his will, his plan, and his purpose for our lives. If you want to know more about this Christian journey, if you want to be encouraged to walk by faith and not by sight, click the link to the next video here. It might show up here. One of those. Either way, click the link to the next video and I'll see you over there. God bless you.